All right, everybody, I'd like to introduce our next presentation here at the Planet MicroCap Showcase Vancouver in association with Small Cap Discoveries. It's a record time. Now presenting, we have Craig Thomas from Gamehost.
Thank you. Appreciate you all being here. I guess I got to show you that for a couple of seconds. You can read that on your own. Okay, so Gamehost, what are we? We are an Alberta-focused operator of casinos and hotels. We are the only remaining Canadian brick-and-mortar casino operator left in the country. There used to be 3. Some of you might be familiar with Great Canadian and Gateway, both not listed anymore. We're a little bit different, or we like to think we're a little bit different than the other operators in that we target the social occasional gamer through basically other offerings like food and beverage and hotels, banquet facilities, entertainment, live entertainment. We are a community-based gaming. This is not destination gaming. So we live and thrive on our local community. We're a very conservatively managed company. We are about paying dividends, stable dividends, and into perpetuity. Currently, we have a yield of about 4.6%. We also have a very high insider ownership at about 40%. Our founders, David and Darcy Will, father and son duo. David's been a hotelier for his whole life, and Darcy's been in and out of a number of ventures, starting with bingos. He got into the liquor industry when the province opened that up as private liquor operators. And then he got into casinos when they used to be card houses. Alberta didn't used to have slot machines. This is a bit of a fortuitous event. Darcy owned a couple of card houses, one up in Fort McMurray and one in Grand Prairie. And some years later, card houses were always a little bit of a, you can win and you can lose as an operator. But the province introduced slot machines in the sort of mid-90s, and lo and behold, he had 2 licenses already, so we got a bunch of slot machines. Darcy and Elston are good friends, childhood friends from high school. They've been business partners in a whole bunch of private ventures, including the bingo operations and liquor stores. And myself, Craig Thomas, I'm the CFO, and I've been with the company since shortly after the IPO'd. A little bit about the history. So in 2003, the company was formed as an income trust. And in what Darcy basically vended in his 2 casino assets, and David vended in some hotel assets. And they also had an interest in some, basically a piece of raw land in South Calgary that they had ideas that the government was going to expand the gaming, and they positioned themselves to be a recipient of a winner of that license, which they were awarded. In 2008, our trust unit split 3-for-1. 2000, in April, we repurchased. At the time, Deerfoot, or the public entity, only owned 40% of the Deerfoot Inn and Casino in South Calgary. And in April of 2010, we purchased 51% of that from the insiders, David and Darcy. We financed that with a $55 million convertible debenture, which basically since has been paid out, and most of the shares converted. In 2010, the income trust converted to a corporation. And basically over that time period from 2003 to 2010, it's just been steady organic growth from inception. We had a regular monthly trust unit distribution of about 4 cents a share, and we grew that to about 7 and a little bit more than 7 cents a share. 2016, some of you might remember these events. So we had the big forest fire up in Fort McMurray. This is one of the places that we have an asset, casino in Fort McMurray. And that event, compounded by the crash in oil prices in 2014, we basically had to cut back our dividend. 2018, we purchased the Encore Suites Hotel from the Will family. That was a private co-investment. It's in Grand Prairie. From 2020 to 2021, of course, we all remember the pandemic. We were shut down or completely shut down or operated on reduced capacity for about almost 300 days. At that point in time, we suspended the dividend completely. In 2022, in April, we reinstated the dividend at 36 cents a share annually. In November, we bumped that up by a cent to 48 cents a share annually. And the last major event that has taken place in 23, we purchased the last remaining 9% of the Deerfoot Inn and Casino in Calgary. So currently we own a casino in Fort McMurray, which is a leased property. We own 2 hotels, a casino, and a commercial strip in Grand Prairie. They're all located adjacent to each other. And we own the Deerfoot Inn Casino entirely in Calgary, Alberta. Any Americans in the crowd? I'm not sure how much I need to tell. Okay, we have a couple here. Not sure how much I need to tell you about Alberta, but Alberta has the highest per capita income of all the Canadian provinces. We have the highest GDP of all Canadian provinces, currently the highest population growth of all the Canadian provinces, and we're getting people arriving in droves from international and a lot of interprovincial migration. Calgary and Edmonton are Canada's most affordable large cities right now. Both cities are north of 1.5 million people. And the economy, which we all, are accustomed to being oil and gas in the provinces, is diversifying. It's quite amazing about the number of things that are taking on there, right? In form of other energy projects like solar and wind. But we have a burgeoning tech sector as well, movie industry, and a bunch of other stuff that's coming to Calgary. So Alberta also has the lowest corporate taxes in Canada and possibly among the lowest in North America. We have no provincial sales tax, and people in the province do not pay health premiums or health tax. A little bit about gaming. For those that are not totally familiar with it, Alberta has a bit of a different gaming model than some of the other jurisdictions. It's a charitable gaming model. We don't open our doors unless there's a charity behind us that's going to benefit from the operation. And they have 2 models in Alberta. One is for traditional casino operators, which we are one. And they have a First Nations gaming model, which have a different revenue sharing model. There is 15 traditional casinos in the province, 4 racing horse track venues, and First Nations casinos are 6. We also have VLTs in the province, which some are located in casinos, but bars and restaurants may also have VLTs. They're capped at 6,000 in the province. Basically how it works is the poorest performing machines every year get reassigned to people that are waiting for them on a list. So if your machines are not performing, they move them to someplace else and try them elsewhere. We do have VLTs as well in our casinos. The revenue split for a traditional casino operator is basically it's spelled out in here in the table here, but basically 15% of the slot revenue goes to the charity, 15% goes to the operator, and 70% goes to the government. Currently, we are the benefactors of a 2% bump in the commission for the traditional and First Nations casino operators. We're getting 17% right now on a trial basis. That is based on an experiment to show that the additional 2% in portions of that are invested in promotion that we can drive gaming traffic, and if that bears out, the government will consider making that permanent. Gaming facility operator licenses are issued for 6 years at a time. Our current licenses don't expire until June of 29, and AGLC has never revoked a license. So basically, if you have one of these things, which are gold, you have them unless you really mess up somehow. So the regulatory environment in Alberta is very supportive. So government is our partner. They're the 70% partner in this venture. They supply all the slot machines. We don't own them. We don't operate them. We just provide a shell for them to put them in. The government does all this backdrop checks for all the operators to make sure that they're keeping crime out of the business. And the AGLC is really committed to the success of all the casino operations. They're reticent to issue any new licenses in an area that may cannibalize an existing license. So they're very careful about who can get in the business and where they do get in when they have the opportunity. And I mentioned the temporary increase in the operator commissions. So these are, I mentioned these assets. So again, we have the Rivers Casino Entertainment Center in Fort McMurray. Grand Prairie, we have the 4 assets that I mentioned earlier. Again, they're all adjacent to each other. And Calgary is our big asset, which is in the southeast quadrant of the city, which is the fastest growing area of the city, by the way. Fort McMurray, for those of you who don't know, is the largest proven oil reserves in North America and third largest in the world. We have seen the benefit already of the commissioning of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which is going to basically triple capacity out of the oil sands to the west coast. Production is already on a steady path for growth, and they expect another 500,000 barrels by the year 2030. We'll go into a bunch of details about the municipality of Fort McMurray. Grand Prairie, a little bit about Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie is really the hotspot for gas right now, and oil and light oil liquids. A lot of the oil patch in Alberta basically contracted in 2014, and most of that business all consolidated up in Grand Prairie. So Grand Prairie really is the hub, centered around the Montney-Duvernay formation, and is a key market center for northwestern BC and all that northern Alberta property. Calgary, is the third largest city in the province. Population, I think, is 1.64 million now. Currently, they just recently had the highest population growth in Canada's largest cities, and it's a great place to live, and people are finding that out every day. So all of our assets are recently constructed or have been significantly expanded or refurbished in the last 8 years. We did a lot of work during COVID when we were shut down. We spent about $13 million doing 2 expansions and refurbishing all our properties. Outside of those major expansions, the annual CapEx requirements and repairs and maintenance requirements for the properties is really minimal. And a big part of that is that we don't own the slot machine. So for about $2 million a year, we can keep these places looking really well for, almost a decade. There's some finer information on all the properties, but I'll leave that information for you to read on your own. Rivers Casino and Entertainment Center in Fort McMurray it's a leased property. We're in the downtown core, which is basically the major market center for the entire region. So everybody who's looking for big box shopping, most of the restaurants, the town hall, all that kind of stuff, you got to go downtown. And we're located right in the heart of downtown. So it's where people are used to going, and we're in the center of the action there. We just did a big expansion there. We put on a big showroom for live entertainment, expanded the food and beverage facilities, and redid the whole exterior and interior of the building. It's a bit of a Fort McMurray, or the casino in Fort McMurray. it's a bit of a shadow of its former self. And obviously, we've been through 2 oil crashes. In 2007, we peaked, and in 2014, we peaked again. And then we had the fire. All three of those events have had an impact on Fort McMurray. It used to be the highest earning slot machines in North America in Fort McMurray. Fort McMurray had the highest per capita incomes in the country. It's still a fantastic place to operate a business. But Fort McMurray, they've learned how to operate with less. They're very efficient up there, and a lot of the plants we used to have crews coming through and staying in town in the hotels. The oil companies have figured out that it's easier to have people in their work camps. They fly them right into the camps and they fly them right out again. So a lot of those people aren't in town anymore. So there's a lot of focus and energy being put on trying to get people to reside in Fort McMurray as opposed to having them remote workers coming in and out. And there were, at one point in time when oil companies were having a hard time finding workers, they literally were paying all the costs of flying people from Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, BC, even the Lower Mainland here. All expenses paid. They flew you in, they flew you out to reduce costs. That's on staff now. If you don't want to live in Fort McMurray, you're going to pay your own flight costs from Newfoundland. So that's the impetus now, to try to get the local workforce in and residing in Fort McMurray. Great Northern Casino, again, this is one of the best spots again in the core of Grand Prairie. It's right across from a college, a big box shopping center. Recently, they just constructed the big new regional hospital, which services northwestern BC and all of northern Alberta. That is right behind us. We're going to talk a little bit about the hotels. The Service Plus is right beside it. And then the Encore Suites Hotel, which we constructed it was constructed as a private asset across the street from the casino in anticipation of that hospital opening up. It's an extended stay suite, so we were anticipating people that are there receiving cancer treatments, their families would come and stay in the hotel. That has been quite successful. And then our flagship property, Deerfoot Inn and Casino, and this is 100% owned. So are all the Grand Prairie properties, 100% owned by us. This is on the southeast quadrant of the city. Excellent access off the Barlow Trail and 114th Street. It's currently the third biggest casino in the city. Through this chart in here, just to kind of show the correlation, pick it out, just how our revenues are tied to employment. So, and it's probably not surprising. People have jobs and people are earning good incomes. They spend it at the casino. That's been pretty consistent. So I'm going to leave this chart just as background information here, but they'll pull a couple of the information off of here for you. So this shows some highlights of our operations, some statistical information from 2010 when we converted to a corporation through to our completed fiscal year for 2023. And during that time, we've repurchased $44.8 million worth of our own shares. We have reduced debt by $27.4 million. We've paid out $189 million in dividends, and we've spent $45 million in CapEx. This is a good chart to refer to if you want to see all of the major events that have affected the company over the last 13 years. I've highlighted the fire in Fort McMurray, the acquisitions that we've made here. But I appreciate the numbers are probably pretty small. You got a question at the back? Correct. Yep. He'll give you the answer that Darcy would give if he was here. Darcy and his dad are the largest shareholders at Gamehost. They own, just shy of 40% of the company. They like their dividends. The impetus is to grow the dividend. But we've had a couple instances where major events have resulted in us having to either suspend the dividend or reduce the dividend. So we're going to be very smart about how we grow the dividend. But that is one of the priorities for the company, is to grow the dividend responsibly. Currently, I think our payout ratio is just south of 50%. We want to make sure that if we get another black swan event or we get another oil crash, that we're not in a position where we got to cut the dividend. That answers your question? Okay, thank you. So we are a company with very, very stable revenue base. Our operations, as I mentioned, they cater to local markets. We are not destination gaming. I had a couple chats with some people in the other room about how, if you look at some of the casinos in and around other provinces, that how much capital and money has been invested in these, and a lot of it isn't necessary. People in your local community, they don't even notice when you change the carpet. They're not looking at, they're looking at the slot machine. So that's what we focus on, is the things that are going to make us money. We invest only what's required to accomplish the goal, basically. Our segmented operation, basically 60% of our revenue is coming from gaming. We've got about 20% and 22% from hotel and food and beverage. And in the gaming sector, 52% of it comes from slot. That is the cash cow. If you can drive activity to the slot machines, you can do it with almost zero cost. You don't have to add staff. You could probably grow the revenue by 20% and add very, very minimal cost. So that's sort of the focus of our endeavors here. Now, with very conservative balance sheet, currently we have a $30 million revolver. We have a $16 million available on it, and some other term debt which matures at the December this year, which we're in the process of renegotiating. I think our debt to EBITDA ratio, just going back to that chart for a second here, our debt to EBITDA ratio is currently at about just north of one times earnings. I mentioned this, that while a lot of people sat on their hands during COVID, we went to work and improved all of our facilities, right? And we are very good at managing costs. We got our cash burn down to about $400,000 a month during those months that we were closed. So obviously that we had to pay for that through our revolver, but we managed to get through that period unscathed. So capital allocation right now, I mentioned the through to 2023 on where we applied our money, and our current strategy is three-pronged. We want to maintain a dividend, a responsible dividend, and we're going to buy back shares consistently whenever we feel that they're undervalued, and we apply all the remaining cash to revolving debt. And we want to have a clean balance sheet so we're capable to capitalize on opportunities if they arise. So investment thesis, solid historical financial performance. We like to think that we're very low risk, a utility-like cash flow. We've got a partner who is invested in our business in the government of Alberta. We have a sustainable high-yield dividend, very hands-on management style with a significant ownership interest. Again, the government regulatory environment is very supportive, and it's a very significant high bar for entry into the gaming. High quality assets in premier locations with minimal capex, and there is some organic growth potential, and we do have some land available to expand facilities where possible. And I'll leave these catalysts for just general information about Alberta, the good things that are happening there, and they will be the tailwinds that carry us along. Thank you. Do I have time to answer any questions if there are any? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we are the lowest paid gaming jurisdiction in the country. And the 2%, we were pretty confident that the government is going to see their way to making that a permanent fixture. We have the Alberta Charitable Casino Operators Association is currently lobbying the government on a regular basis to, to plead the case for a higher commission rate on for traditional casino operators. We've absorbed all the cost increases on behalf of the entire partnership, meaning the government, the charities, and the operators. And, I think there's strong justification for the government bumping up our share of the revenue. Yeah. Yeah, in that order, first of all, maintain the dividend, right? We're going to try to maintain that in a responsible fashion. We'll keep applying money to the NCIB when it makes sense to do so, and it's only after those two items there, whatever's left, we'll apply to debt. Our balance sheet is in a position we're quite comfortable with right now. We don't need to go take it a lot lower. So. Yeah, we would definitely look in other provinces. I think we would look to BC first. There are some things that we have looked at. The problem is that if you own a casino and you see the benefits of owning a casino, people don't want to sell them, and they certainly don't want to sell them at the multiples we'd like to buy. So, we just have to be very patient and watch for opportunities that arise, and hopefully we'll get some greenfield opportunities again with the growing province in Alberta. So, yeah.
Thank you.